These days, it's probably 80, 85 hours a week. For a while it was over 100 hours a week, and that's a very high amount of pain. So it's, the difficulty and pain of work hours really increases exponentially. It's not linear. But when the financial crisis hit in 2008, 2009, it was just every day, 7 days a week, morning till night, and dream about work.
Okay.
So it was terrible.
And at the time there were bad dreams, I guess.
Bad dreams,
2008.
indeed. Yes. Yeah.
And at what time do you get up normally in the morning?
For me, it's usually about 7.
7, okay.
But I go to bed late, so usually I go to bed around 1 a.m. or so.
1 a.m.
Yeah.
And you start the day with a real breakfast, or just with a coffee, or with a water?
That also varies a lot. I think it's probably true that having a good breakfast is a good idea, but usually I don't have time for that. So sometimes it's made for me, but probably half the time I don't have any breakfast. I had to have like coffee or something like that.
And a Mars bar with it?
Mars bar, sure. And I'm trying to cut down on sweet stuff. So, but I think I probably should have like an omelet and a coffee or something like that. That seems like probably the right thing. And sometimes I do have that.
And for lunch? Is there lunch?
Yeah. Lunch is usually served to me during a meeting, and I finish it in 5 minutes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I know, it's a bad habit.
Dinner?
Dinner is where the calories really come into play, because there's, if I have dinner meetings are the worst, because then you eat enough for like 2 people in those things, because you have the appetizer and the main course and all that stuff. So business dinners are like the thing that really, where I probably eat way too much.
Mm-hmm. But you don't have problems with your weight?
I certainly could be slimmer, I think. Yeah.
What?
Do you work out then? Do you do sports?
I work out once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Once or twice.
You should.
I should do it more often, for sure.
And what are you doing? You run through the forest, or?
Run through the forest? No.
Yeah.
Usually just like a little bit on the treadmill or on lifting some weights, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
On the way to the office, it's all of a 5-minute drive. Been doing it for 54 years. Somebody did something for the king, and the king said, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "Well, let's take a chessboard and put 1 kernel of wheat on the first square, and then double it on the second, and double it on the third." And the king readily agreed to it, and by the time he figured out what 2 to the 64th amounted to, he was giving away the entire kingdom. So it's a pretty simple concept, but over time, it accomplishes extraordinary things.
Berkshire is an amazing company. It's 4th largest company in the Fortune 500. He is the only person who has ever, from scratch, built a company that is in the top 10 of the Fortune 500.
It's a pretty simple concept, but over time, it accomplishes extraordinary things.
As you know, I'm known to be a highly productive person. I speak 100 times a year, I write 4 books a year, I run 3 businesses, I travel all over the world. People say, how do you do it? Well, I have a morning routine, and I developed this a long time ago, and it really works. What I do is I always get up 2 hours before my first fixed appointment. So let's say I have a phone call at 8 o'clock, then I get up at 6 a.m. If I have to be in the office at 8:30, I'll get up at 6:30. It's always 6:30, maybe earlier if necessary, but always 2 hours before my first appointment. Then the first thing I do for the first 30 minutes is I exercise. And I'll do stretching exercises, I'll do yoga exercises. Sometimes I'll get up a little earlier and I'll do aerobic exercises on life cycle or elliptical machine or treadmill, or I'll swim. I usually swim every single morning. But for the first 30 minutes, get your body working. And then I like coffee. Then I'll do a little bit of spiritual reading and I'll just relax and get my mind ready for the day, and then I'll get started. Within 60 minutes of getting up, I've exercised, prepared my mind, showered, dressed, and I'm ready to go. Then I have the next hour to plan, prepare, have breakfast, and get to my first appointment. So give that a try. Get up 2 hours early, exercise for the first 30 minutes to get yourself going, read a little to prepare your mind, and then be ready to go 1 hour before you have to be somewhere.
Playing around with the latest technology, whether it's new PCs, looking at new software, sitting down with researchers, it's why I think my job is the best. Warren thinks his is the best, but I'm sure I'm right. Anyway, I'm in meetings a lot. My calendar gets very full with those, and then at night, after the kids have gone to bed, I'm on email a great deal. I get messages during the day. That's my chance to give long responses. And then over the weekend, I send a lot of mail as well. I take 2 weeks a year to just go off and read and think, where I'm not interrupted by work or anything else. I'm just solidly trying to think about the future, and people get to send me things to read as part of that so-called Think Week. So it's a nice mix of things. About 25% of the time that I'm out traveling around, meeting with customers, Europe, Asia, and that sort of helps me think, okay, do we have the right priorities? What are people responding well to, and what would they like to see us do better?
That you can practice every morning is to get up and read 30 to 60 minutes in something uplifting and inspirational each day. When you get up in the morning, and instead of reading the newspaper or watching television, you read something positive and constructive and inspiring, you set your mental stage or tone for the rest of the day. Throughout the day, from the first day that you try this, you will notice that things go better for you. You will be calmer, you're more productive, you're more creative, you're more alert. You'll actually be more resilient and will respond more effectively when you face the inevitable ups and downs of your daily life. Just like vigorous physical exercise in the morning will prepare you to be more resilient physically during the day, positive mental exercise in the form of inspirational reading will prepare you to be more mentally fit during the day.
What's typical Jay-Z day?
Typical.
Obviously, there are no typical. I mean, give me your day yesterday. Obviously, you flew out here late last night, early this morning. What was your day? Time you got up till when you ended up at the Nets game last night?
I got up around 8. Had some breakfast. Ran a mile. It was really tough. I just came from Aspen. Yeah, I just wanted to touch it a little bit. My foot in
quite the
water.
marathoner, a mile.
Yeah. 1 mile. I mean, everyone can't be like you, man.
It's gone away.
So, ran a mile. Then I went to the office, read a bunch of emails, read some more emails, downloaded some music legally. Had a meeting with some great people. I won't really say their name yet. After that, listened to some music. Went to the studio. Had dinner. Went to the Nets game. We won. We're up 3-2. Thank you very much. Went to sleep.
Good day, full day.
Great day.
Great day. You ever pinch yourself and go, how the hell did I get here? I mean, it's a long way.
I was just doing that back there, man.
Microsoft conference, Bill Gates invites me to speak in It's a pretty rarefied place.
Yeah, amazing.
Wake up really early every day, and I play tennis with somebody who's a lot younger and a lot fitter than me, and we play singles, and we give it everything we can and end up sweating big time and having a lot of fun as well. And then if the wind is up, I'll go for a kite surf. Kiting's a lovely way just to get away from the mobile phones and just get out on the sea. After that, come back, have a sort of nice healthy breakfast generally. So sometimes, sometimes not so healthy.
You found your kryptonite.
I have this deal with myself called priming. Every day I say, look, you got to have 10 minutes for yourself. You don't have 10 minutes for yourself, you don't have a life. And I'm not going to hope I feel good. I just got back 6 countries in 12 days. I was in India 2 days ago.
Wow.
And I woke up here feeling like somebody ran me over with a truck.
But you got yourself psyched up.
But the way I did it is I do this process. And it's 10 minutes. I put some music on. I do this massive change in my breathing, so it radically changes the way I feel. And then I do this 3-step process. First, I do 3 minutes of gratitude, where I think of 3 things I'm really grateful for, and I associate. I don't think of it over there. I feel it. And the reason is, when you're grateful, you can't be worried. You can't be fearful. When you're grateful, you can't be angry. And anger and fear are what screw people up most in their relationships, in their life, in their business. So I wire myself. I was saying to you that most people want to be happy, but their habit is to be worried or pissed off or frustrated or stressed. And so they've got a highway to stress and they got a dirt road to happiness. So I wire myself. I've got a highway to gratitude, which changes all your emotions. And then I do a 3-minute process of kind of a prayer for my family and friends. And then I do a 3-minute process of the top 3 things I want to accomplish. I see it as done and I feel it. I'm done in 10 minutes. So sometimes I go 20. But my deal is 10, so there's no excuse not to do it.
You know what? I think it's a great way to kind of set the tone for the day.
It does. It changes. Listen, we've all had times when you snapped at somebody and you felt bad because it wasn't them, it was the state you're in, right? Well, there's no excuse for that. If you prime yourself, you set yourself up. They've done studies where they go to people and they have a man walk up to you and say, could you hold this for me? He hands you a cup of coffee. It's an actor. And then he takes something out of his pocket, then he takes it back and says, thank you. 100 people, they do it with iced coffee. 100 people do it with hot coffee. 45 minutes later, another actor comes by and says, listen, we're doing this little test. For $5, would you read this 3 paragraphs and answer 3 questions? Most people say yes. It's a little story. The questions are about the character. What's the character like? 80% of the people that got iced coffee say the person is cold and mean.
Wow.
81% of the people that got hot coffee say the person is warm and gentle or nice. That's how much we can be primed by our environment. We think we're just feeling what we're feeling, but our environment, if we don't take control of our environment, it takes control of us.
So Tony, one of the critics actually that I once met said, yeah, Tony's techniques, they were great for about 1.5 years and then they wore off. What do you say to that, folks?
It's real simple. If you don't work out, you don't get a muscle, right? So I always tell people there's a daily practice like priming. If you don't do that, if you get up and you just have no discipline whatsoever, you get no value of anything. Diets don't work when you don't do them. Exercise doesn't work when you don't do them. But most of the people have some experiences that they want to shift. And once you shift those things, your whole life changes. But life is constant growth. My life isn't here because I went to one seminar one time and now my life is fit for life. I work out, I train my mind, I train my body, and it becomes a lifestyle. It's not just like you're depending upon somebody else. I'm not here to become somebody's guru. I'm not here to give them a gift. I'm here for them to open up their own gifts. And that's really what my work has been.
So, okay, I know you're priming yourself every day. Does it every now and then, do you get hit by depression? Are you upset, anxious?
I get frustrated, I get angry, I get all those things. I just don't stay there. I mean, I used to be there for a month or two. I used to live in depression. I was 38 pounds heavier than I am now. I lost everything. I moved into a little 400 square foot bachelor apartment in Venice, California, feeling sorry for myself. But I got so near the end where you think life has no meaning, it scared the hell out of me, and I developed tools, and I've never gone back there. I mean, have I gotten pissed or angry? Of course. People all think, you're not happy all the time, are you? No, I'm not happy all the time. But I'm happy the vast majority of the time because I'm doing what I love, with who I love, and there's a meaning in what I do. When you have those 3 things, life is pretty magnificent.
I believe desire and will to win is everything. I don't know why I'm like I am, but my butt's always burning. There's always something say, Art, dadgummit, you're supposed to go far. Art, dadgummit, you're supposed to be somebody. You're supposed to make a difference with your life. What does the $500,000 a year person do? The $50,000 a year person doesn't do. You look at the outside and study those two individuals, everything seems to be the same. They both are the same sex, they both are the same age, they have the same training, the same positions, the same contract, the same fringe benefits. They both are successful, they work hard, they're good family people, make tough commitments. But what's the difference? What does the $500,000 a year person do the $50,000 a year person doesn't do? He pays the price and a little bit more. He works hard and a little bit more. He's loyal to the company and a little bit more. He believes in a little bit more. He makes money and a little bit more. He saves money and a little bit more. If you want to win in these United States, you got to be tough and you can't quit.
I called up Bill Hewlett when I was 12 years old, and he lived in Palo Alto. His number was still in the phone book. And he answered the phone himself. He said, yes? He said, hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'm 12 years old. I'm a student in high school, and I want to build a frequency counter. And I was wondering if you had any spare parts I could have. And he laughed, and he gave me the spare parts to build this frequency counter, and he gave me a job that summer in Hewlett-Packard, working on the assembly line, putting nuts and bolts together on frequency counters. He got me a job in the place that built them. And I was in heaven. And I've never found anyone who said no or hung up the phone when I called. I just asked. And when people ask me, I try to be as responsive, to pay that debt of gratitude back. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. You gotta act. And you've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to crash and burn. With people on the phone, with starting a company, with whatever. If you're afraid of failing, you won't get very far.
I don't know if there's a golden rule. I can tell you this, that I believe anything is possible, right? I live in the world of possibility. And I also believe that we can accomplish anything with our two hands and just putting in the work with our two hands. And also, you hear this often, but it's really, really true. You got to find something. If you love what you do and be passionate about what you do and find something that you can be passionate like, it really helps. It gives you that motivation when you wake up in the morning.
One of the functions of belief is taking action. We did a survey of about 2,000 top entrepreneurs, and we noticed that one of the things that people who win in that world have is a bias for action. If they have an inspiration, they act on it. I mean, how many of you have ever had a great idea, talked about it, thought about it, didn't do it, and then someone else did it and was successful, and you went, darn, I should have done that. Maybe it was buy that piece of property. We all have that piece of property we wish we'd bought, Anyway. So we're going to be looking at the idea that taking action is part of the law of attraction. See, a lot of people think you can just sit in your room, meditate, visualize having the perfect car, the perfect house, the perfect relationship, and then it'll kind of just come to you. And I always say, unless you live at the bottom of a hill where there's a road, it's probably not going to be a Cadillac show up in your living room, right? So think about this. The last 6 letters of the word attraction spell what? A-C-T-I-O-N, action. Now, there's 2 kinds of actions that are critical. There's obvious actions. If you want a certain kind of car, you should go down and test drive it. You should find out how much it costs. You should see what it costs to maintain it. You should go, I like to test drive a car 3 or 4 times, go down to the dealer, take a camera, stick my head out the window, say, take a picture of me, I'll be back to buy it. Put it up on my refrigerator, look at it every day. Eventually, those kind of things produce car. Right? Saving for it and so forth. But there are also things called inspired actions. All of a sudden, you get an inspiration to do something, and you didn't know what it was. You don't have the sense of, how is this rationally going to make sense for me to move forward in my life? I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, Dr. Ignatius Piazza, graduates chiropractic school. He wants to move to Monterey, near Pebble Beach, where the golf course is. And he gets there and he says to the local chiropractic association, I'd like to join you, I'd like you to help me get my practice started. And they said, we don't need any more chiropractors. We have 1 chiropractor for every 8 people in this area. It's too many. Now, he could have said, okay, let the external reality control his internal experience, but he didn't do that. He said, I'm going to think about this and visualize it and believe in it, and something will come that I will do. And what came to him to do was to take 6 months before he opened his office and put a pin where he wanted his office, and then concentric circles knock on every door in every neighborhood saying, hi, I'm a new doctor in town, could I ask you a few questions? I'm starting this practice, should I open from 5 till 9 in the morning, or should I be open from 5 until 9 at night for people who have 9 to 5 jobs, which would be better? Should I advertise in this paper or that paper? Should I call it Ignatius Piazza Chiropractic or Chiropractic West? Then his last question was, if I have an open house, would you like to receive an invitation? They said yes, he wrote it down. Now, over 6 months, he knocked on 12,500 doors, talked to 6,500 people, and gathered over 4,000 names of people who said, yes, I'd like an invitation to your open house. Now, when he opened his office 6 months later in a town that did not need another chiropractor, according to the professionals, his first month in practice, he netted $72,000. In his first year in practice, his gross income was over $1 million. I was giving a talk and mentioned this story just about 5 years ago, and this happened about 25 years ago. Someone said, he knocked on my door. And he left his card. And 2 years later, I needed the chiropractor, and I called him. Because we work with people we know, we've had an experience with, right? So he trusted his intuition. He took action on it. Other people would say, oh, guess I can't have what I want. You got to be willing to take the action.
I find it quite inspiring. You were in film publicity originally, and then at a certain point you decided that you wanted to direct. Can you tell us how you got from there to here?
Well, I was one of those ladies standing on the side, you know, and they work hard and no one ever really gives them a shout out. I thank you all, the publicists in the corner, you know. And as a person who loved film and wanted to make film, you're standing there supporting filmmakers, telling their stories, and it's something that I loved doing. But for me, there was always a little bit of, not jealousy, but just like, wow, that's great what they're doing. And so at the moment when I actually started to write and try to direct my own stuff, I was still doing publicity for other people's films. I was trying to make my own films. I was asking for permission, pitching people, trying to get contacts and network and do all the things that don't matter, because the only thing that matters is your work. And so when I finally realized that and started to make small things and try to move them around festivals and just share my work, the energy behind that positive intention started a ball rolling. And I've only been making films for 5 years. And I only quit my job full time 3 years ago because I was still holding on to publicity as a security blanket. And so yeah, I look at, each year that's passed, and all I've tried to do is continue to make work, whether I have the money to make a film, a narrative, a doc, a commercial, a TV show, directed an episode of Scandal, a documentary about Venus Williams, whatever a story I want to tell through whatever medium, short medium, TV medium, commercial medium, full length, documentary, feature. That's something that I really learned from Spike. Lee, not Jones. I'm sure Jones is nice. But I was talking to a lady. She was like, Spike Jones? I was like, no, lady, it's Spike Lee. But remember he did commercials with Jordan. He's done almost as many docs as he's done narratives. He's made a film every year for the past 20 years. I mean, he's really the blueprint of just not even a black filmmaker, a filmmaker who's just continued to make work. And so that's how we're here now.
I think stress, you can be, I think one of the things that's very important to note about stress is that stress primarily comes from not taking action over something that you can have some control over. So if I find that some particular thing is causing me to have stress, that's a warning flag for me. What it means is there's something that I haven't completely identified, perhaps in my conscious mind, that is bothering me, and I haven't yet taken any action on it. I find as soon as I identify it and make the first phone call or send off the first email message or whatever it is that we're going to do to start to address that situation, even if it's not solved, the mere fact that we're addressing it dramatically reduces any stress that might come from it. So stress comes from ignoring things that you shouldn't be ignoring. I think in large part. So stress doesn't come, people get stress wrong all the time, in my opinion. Stress doesn't come from hard work, for example. You can be working incredibly hard and loving it. And likewise, you can be out of work and incredibly stressed over that. So, and likewise, if you kind of use that as an analogy for what I was just talking about, if you're out of work, but you're going through, a disciplined approach of, a series of job interviews and so on and working to remedy that situation, you're going to be a lot less stressed than if you're just worrying about it and doing nothing.
The last thing I'll talk to you about today in building this winning edge is, folks, if you want to win in business, you got to be a leader. Leadership is everything. You show me anything in these United States that win, I'll show you a leader at work. You show me a successful church, Boy Scout troop, club, football team, business, I'll show you something run by a leader. See, I thought at one time in my life you had to be smart to win. I used to have these smart people that dress so pretty and talk so pretty and use these big words. They just intimidated me. And I said, Art, you can't ever be that good. Why don't you just throw in the towel and go back and coach football for a living? And I found two things out about smart people. I think it's almost impossible for a smart person to win in business in America today. Because I find smart people spend their whole lifetime figuring things out. They're always trying to figure out an easier way and a quicker way. And another thing I found out about smart people is they just don't get around to doing nothing. And see, somebody like Art Williams, everybody said, well, he can't do it. And somebody like that can't do it. But he does it.
You can't just wait for inspiration to act. That's the biggest mistake people make. Don't wait to be inspired to do the action. You have to do the action first and then you'll be inspired. So what I would do is I would sit there and draw out the comic and I would come up with it. But some days I'd come home from school, sit down and go, I'm just going to wait for the inspiration to hit me. I'm going to wait for the idea to come fully formed. And when I got a joke, then I'll go draw it. And I would sit there for maybe 3 or 4 hours and then go, all right, screw it. I got to get up and I got to do the process. I got to sit there and just start drawing. I don't even know why or how I'm going to get there. And then two things would come together and it would be, oh, there's an idea. Oh, there's the first panel, there's the second panel. And then it would come together. Always, it would not take very long. I would fight that process so much because what was I doing? I was waiting for inspiration before I acted. It's always the other way around. Act first, then the inspiration will come. Draw first, then the inspiration will come. Just start shooting, then the inspiration will come. Just start moving, then the inspiration will come. Don't wait. So many people wait or tell you they're going to write this novel or they're going to do this or they're going to make this film. They never do it because they're waiting for all this stuff to come to them. It comes through doing it.
See, folks, I want you to know almost everybody in America almost does enough to win. They almost get there. They almost are over the hump. They almost have it going. They almost in everything they do, almost is a way of life to almost everybody in America. But the winners do it. What do? They do whatever it takes to get the job done. They do it and do it and do it and do it and do it until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to be somebody they're proud of. We need leaders in America who can do it. If you want to become somebody, do it. If you want to go in business for yourself, do it. If you want to become financially independent, do it. I hear too much talk in these United States. Everybody can talk a good game. We need people in America who can do it. I go all over this country with A.L. Williams and I have people say, Art, you can count on me. Wonderful. Just do it. Art, I guarantee you this is my last stop. I'm going to win now. Super duper. Just do it. Art, if I could just have one good month and get the ball going, I know I could make it big. Super. Just do it. Art, if I could just pay off this debt, I could really go. Great. Just do it. Art, if I could just sell my house. Do it. But houses ain't selling. Do it anyway. Art, I'm not making any money. What can I do? You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it and do it and do it.
We try to hire really smart people, but we have a very simple organization, and we try to focus and do very few things well. And focusing's hard because focusing doesn't mean saying yes, it means saying no. So we decide not to do a lot of things so we can focus on a few handfuls of things and do them well. And I think, everybody working at a company wants to do something great. They want to be excited about what they're working on. And they want to be recognized for it if they do a really great job. So we just try to allow people to do the best work of their lives at Apple and get it out to 25 million customers that we have. And that's very exciting. And when you're working on something and if this works out, up to 25 million people are going to use this. It's very motivating. And it's not just 25 million of our customers, but other companies tend to follow us. It takes them a few years, but other companies tend to copy what we do if it works. Right. And so we can influence the whole industry.
Art, I guarantee I'm going to win this contest. Super duper. Just do it. Art, I'm over the hump now. Watch my smoke. Great. Just do it. Art, I want to make it so bad I can taste it, what I do. You just do it. Art, I'm a vice president now. Can I quit doing it? No. Art, I don't know if I can keep on keeping on. I'm really hurting what I do. You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it, and do it, and do it. Art, all my life I wanted to be somebody important. Well, what do it then? Art, I'm going to save money so I don't have to go through this again. Great. Just do it. Art, I don't feel like I've had enough training. What I do? You just do it. Art, my manager don't give me no help. What I do? You just do it. Art, you don't understand. I was Mr. Everything in my former company. You don't mean I have to start off down at the bottom and do it, do you? Yep, you really got to do it. Art, what's the primary difference between winners and losers? The winners do it. They do it, and do it, and do it, and do it, until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to finally have achieved something unique, and how glad they are that they didn't quit like everybody else, and how wonderful it is to finally be somebody they're proud of and make a difference with their life. Thank you.
A lot of people come to me and they say, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I go, oh, that's great. What's your idea? And they go, well, I don't have one yet. And I say, well, I think you should go get a job as a busboy or something until you find something you're really passionate about, because it's a lot of work. And I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. It is so hard. You pour so much of your life into this thing. There are such rough moments in time that most people give up. I don't blame them. I mean, it's really tough, and it consumes your life. I mean, if you've got a family and you're in the early days of a company, I can't imagine how one could do it. I'm sure it's been done, but it's rough. I mean, because it's pretty much an 18-hour-a-day job, 7 days a week for a while. So unless you have a lot of passion about this, you're going to not survive. You're going to give it up. So you got to have an idea or a problem or a wrong that you want to right that you're passionate about. Otherwise, you're not going to have the perseverance to stick it through. And I think that's half the battle right there. It's hard to remember how bad it was, in early 80s, with IBM taking over the world with the PC, with DOS out there. It was far worse than the Apple II. And they tried to copy the Apple II, and they'd done a pretty bad job, and you needed to know a lot. And so things were kind of slipping backwards. And Macintosh was, you saw the 1984 commercial. I hope you have that in your archives. Macintosh was basically this relatively small company, in Cupertino, California, taking on the Goliath, IBM, and saying, wait a minute, your way is wrong. This is not the way we want computers to go. This is not the legacy we want to leave. This is not what we want our kids to be learning. This is wrong, and we are going to show you the right way to do it. And here it is. It's called Macintosh, and this is so much better that it's going to beat you. And we are going to do it. And that's what Apple stood for.
Next best predictor of lifetime success is conscientiousness. Well, and of the two aspects of conscientiousness, say orderliness and industriousness, the better predictor is industriousness. So the question is, well, what can you do about your industriousness? And the answer to that is, well, that's kind of rough too, because there's a strong genetic component. But you can work on micro habits with regards to your conscientiousness. And I think the best micro habits, and this is partly to do with this future authoring program processes, I think the best thing you can do with regards to your conscientiousness is to set up some aims for yourself, goals that you actually value. And the future authoring program helps people do that. And basically, it does a situational analysis it helps you do a situational analysis of your life more than a psychological analysis, I would say. And so the questions are something like, well, all right, you're going to have to put some effort into your life. And you need to be motivated to do that. And so what are the potential sources of motivation? Well, you could think about them in the big five manner. If you're extroverted, you want friends. If you're agreeable, you want an intimate relationship. If you're disagreeable, you want to win competitions. If you're open, you want to engage in creative activity. If you're high neuroticism, you want security. Okay, so those are all sources of potential motivation that you could draw on, that you could tailor to your own, your own personality. But then there are dimensions that you want to consider your life across. And so we ask people about, well, you know, if you could have your life the way you wanted it in 3 to 5 years, if you were taking care of yourself properly, you know, what would you want from your friendships? What would you want from your intimate relationship? How would you like to structure your family? What do you want for your career? Well, how are you going to use your time outside of your job? And how are you going to regulate your mental and physical health, and maybe also your drug and alcohol use, because that's a good place to auger down, you know, because alcoholism, for example, wipes out, you know, 5 to 10% of people. So you want to keep that under control. And then so maybe, you know, you develop a vision of what you would like your life to be, and that associates the goal. Well, once the goal is established, and then you break down the goal into micro processes that you can implement, the micro processes become rewarding in proportion, in relation to their causal association with the goal, and that tangles in your incentive reward system. You know, we talked about the dopaminergic incentive reward system, and that's the thing that keeps you moving forward. And the way it works is that it works better if it produces positive emotion when it can see you moving towards a valued goal. Okay, well, what's the implication of that? Better have a valued goal, because otherwise you can't get any positive motivation working out. And so the more valuable the goal, in principle, the more the micro processes associated with that goal start to take on a positive charge. And so what that means is, well, you get up in the morning and you're excited about the day, you're ready to go. And so as far as I can tell, what you do is you specify your long-term ideal. Maybe you also specify a place you want to stay the hell away from, so that you're terrified to fail as well as excited about succeeding, because that's also useful. You specify your goal. You do that in some sense as a unique individual. You want to specify goals that make you say, oh, if that could happen as a consequence of my efforts, it would clearly be worthwhile. Because the question always is, why do something? Because doing nothing is easy. You just sit there and you don't do anything. That's real easy. The question is, why would you ever do anything? And the answer to that has to be because you've determined by some means that it's worthwhile. And then the next question might be, well, where should you look for worthwhile things? And one would be, well, you could consult your own temperament. And the other would be, well, you kind of look at what it is that people accrue that's valuable across the lifespan. So you do a structural analysis of the subcomponents of human existence, and I already did that. You need a family, you need friends. Like, you don't need to have all these things, but you better have most of them. Family, friends, career, educational goals, plans for, you know, time outside of work, attention to your mental and physical health, etc. You know, that's what life is about. And if you don't have any of those things, well, then all you've got left is misery and suffering. So that's a bad deal for you. So once you set up that goal structure, let's say, and that's really in many ways that's what you should be doing at university. That's exactly what you should be doing, is trying to figure out who it is that you're trying to be, right? And you aim at that, and then you use everything you learned as a means of building that person that you want to be. And I really mean want to be. I don't mean should be. Even those things are going to overlap. And it's important to distinguish between those, because that's partly, and this is back down to the micro routine analysis. So if I was saying, well, you're going to try to make yourself more industrious. Okay, number one, specify your damn goals, because how are you going to hit something if you don't know what it is? That isn't going to happen. And often people won't specify their goals too, because they don't like to specify conditions for failure. So if you keep yourself all vague and foggy, which is real easy, because that's just a matter of not doing as well, then you don't know when you fail. And people might say, well, I really don't want to know when I fail, because that's painful. So I'll keep myself blind about when I fail. That's fine, except you'll fail all the time then. You just won't know it until you've failed so badly that you're done. And that can easily happen by the time you're 40. So I would recommend that you don't let that happen. So that's willful blindness, right? You could have known, but you chose not to. Okay, so once you get your goal structure set up, you think, okay, if I could have this life, it looks like that might be worth living, despite the fact that it's going to be, you know, anxiety provoking and threatening, and there's going to be some suffering and loss involved in all of that, obviously. The goal is to have a vision for your life such that, all things considered, that justifies your effort.
But somebody must have told people, oh, life is going to be real easy. No! If they told you that, I've got a special announcement. They lied! Didn't nobody warn you that it was going to come down on you like this? That's called life. You accept yourself, then you accept the fear as a fact and not a force. See, when you accept yourself and you accept fear as a fact, that means that it's something that happens, it's something that you're going to experience, but it is not a force to hold you back. It doesn't have any special power other than that you give it. So you accept the fact that you are afraid, and then you move on anyhow. One of the things that you've got to do is you've got to watch your inner conversation and discipline your thinking and your imagination, because if you don't, your mind will take you on a wild trip. See, when you are not filling your life with the things that you are capable of doing, see, we all have some stuff that we've been given. And I don't think that it's optional for us to sit on what we have. See, if you're sitting on what you have, what you've been given, and I think everybody's been given something to bring to the planet, that only you can do that, only you can perform that, only you can initiate that activity. And if you don't do that, if you're not filling in your life with your life work or your mission, then there are gaps in your life. And what we do when we're not living out our true identity, we begin to fill the gaps. We fill the holes with garbage. Alcohol, drugs, worry, self-destructive behavior. So when you begin to look at your life and you know that you're not doing what you can do because you have allowed yourself to be held captive by your fears. Now, when you don't have a true appreciation and acceptance for who you are, and you allow yourself to be immobilized by fear, what happens in the process is that you begin to abuse yourself. You begin to sabotage your life, you begin to sabotage your dreams, you begin to unconsciously work against yourself. You become your own worst enemy. So what do you do about that? Well, you begin to realize that your dream and your gifts have so much meaning and so much value for you till your hunger for them will begin to push you past the fear. Your hunger to have them will give you a special drive. As you work on yourself, as you begin to acknowledge your true identity, the true power that you have, the true capacity you have to bring about change, the miracle-working power that you have within yourself to do the things that you want to do.
What is it that you have that so many people who are unbelievably brilliant at engineering or are incredibly good managers or bold business people or what have you, what is it that you have, do you think, that enables you to make this stuff happen?
Well, first of all, I certainly don't think I can, do anything or do most things that people think are impossible, because I think a lot of what people think is impossible is actually impossible. But occasionally it's not. I guess it's. I don't think I've said this before. I think it's helpful to have kind of a physics framework for looking at things. Do a first principles analysis, look for negative feedback, really believe in what you're doing, but not just from a blind faith standpoint. Like to have really thought about it and say, okay, this is true. I'm convinced it's true, and I've tried every angle to figure out if it's untrue, and sort negative feedback to figure out maybe if I'm maybe wrong. But then after all that, it still seems like this is the right way to go. Then that I think gives one a fundamental conviction and an ability to convey that conviction to others, and to convince them to join. And that's what a company is. It's a group of people who come together to create a product of some kind. And so if you can convey that and answer the concerns that people have, convince them that this is something that needs to be done, it's important, and here is a path to do it, even if that path has a lot of danger associated with it and risk, and maybe it won't succeed. But people can understand, okay, this is why it's important, and even if the odds are that it won't succeed, it's worth trying to do it, then I think you can create a great company.
I want you to ponder these 4 questions. Here's the first one, and that's why. Why pay the price? Why work this hard? Why go this far? Why try to learn this much? Why try to do it all? Why try to see it all? Why try to have it all? Why do it? Why learn it? Why study? Why put yourself out? Why try to take on this much responsibility? Why develop yourself to the full? Why try to become all that you can possibly become? Why try to earn as much as you can earn, share as much as you can share, develop every skill you possibly can, see every human you possibly can, go to every class you possibly can, touch everybody you possibly can? Why do that much? Why go that far? Why share that much? Why give that much away? Why try to see everything? Why try to do everything? Why try to become everything? That's a good question, why? And you're the only one personally that can answer that question for yourself. You've got to have your own list of whys. Here's what I want you to do when you go home after you've left this extravaganza. Work on your list of whys. One of the big thrusts for success is to come up with a strong enough why. In leadership training, here's what we learn. If the why is powerful, the how is easy. But if the why isn't strong, if your goals aren't powerful, if the vision isn't clear, the old prophet said, without a vision we die, without a vision we perish, without a dream we're nothing.
Well, I think it's important to have a very, to apply critical thinking to, this may sound trite, but to apply critical thinking to what one is doing. By that I mean just the fundamentals of logic, you know, do you have the right axioms? Are they relevant? And are you making the right conclusions based on those axioms? That's the essence of critical thinking, and yet it is amazing how often people fail to do that. I think wishful thinking is innate in the human brain. You want things to be the way you wish them to be, and so you tend to filter information that you shouldn't filter. That's the most common flaw that I see.
Idea comes, and you see it, and you hear it, and you know it.
How does it come?
It comes like on a TV in your mind.
You know, there's a line I've always loved of Leonard Cohen. He said, if I knew where the good songs came from, I would go there more often.
Absolutely. People, we don't do anything without an idea. So they're beautiful gifts. And I always say, desiring an idea is like a bait on a hook.
Yeah.
It can pull them in. And if you catch an idea that you love, that's a beautiful, beautiful day. And you write that idea down so you won't forget it. And that idea that you caught might just be a fragment of the whole, whatever it is you're working on. But now you have even more bait. Thinking about that small fragment, that little fish, will bring in more. And they'll come in and they'll hook on. And more come in, and pretty soon you might have a script, or a chair, or a painting, or an idea for a painting.
But they come as in small...
More often than not, small fragments. I like to think of it as in the other room, the puzzle is all together, but they keep flipping in just one piece at a time.
In the other room...
Over there.
in a sense, David, there's always another room somewhere.
That's a beautiful thing to think about.
The ideal situation for a man or woman to die is to have family members praying with them as they cross over. But I know that, imagine, if you will, being on your deathbed And standing around your bed, the ghost of the dreams, the ideas, the abilities, and the talents given to you by life, but you, for whatever reason, you never acted on those ideas. You never pursued those dreams. You never used those gifts. And there they are standing around your bed, looking at you with large, angry eyes, saying, we came to you, and only you could have given us life. And now we must die with you forever. When Jim spoke, Jim said, when the end comes for you, let it find you conquering a new mountain, not sliding down and over. Jim taught us that things may happen to you and things may happen around you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you.
If somebody is doing something that is useful to the rest of society, I think that's a good thing. Like, it doesn't have to change the world. Like, you know, if you're doing something that has high value to people, and frankly, even if it's something, if it's like just a little game, or you know, some improvement in photo sharing or something. If it has a small amount of good for a large number of people, I think that's fine. Like, stuff doesn't need to be changed the world just to be good.
So it's easy to have ideas. It's very hard to turn an idea into a successful product. There are a lot of steps in between, and it takes persistence, relentlessness. So I always tell people who are, who think they want to be entrepreneurs, you need a combination of stubborn relentlessness and flexibility. And you have to know when to be which. And basically, you need to be stubborn on your vision, because otherwise it'll be too easy to give up. But you need to be very flexible on the details, because as you go along pursuing your vision, you'll find that some of your preconceptions were wrong, and you're going to need to be able to change those things. So I think taking an idea successfully all the way to the market and turning it into a real product that people care about and that really improves people's lives is a lot of hard work.
There's a spirit that grabs me, right? And it's in every one of you guys. But the question is, how much time are we wasting? I just came out of the gym for 3 hours this morning. I got 5 hours of sleep. That's it. Every day of my life, I'm trying to find a different way to get better. Coach didn't tell me to do this. Remember, we in a lockout. So I ain't training for football. I'm training for a lifestyle. I'm training because I said something that I wanted to be the greatest to ever do it. And I'm not done yet. That's inside of each one of y'all. Right there. Each one of you. But the question still remains. How much time will you really waste? If I looked at my clock, if you looked at your phone, time never stops for no one. It's the one thing God don't give us. When it's your time, it's your time. But now the question is, what will you do to make sure it's your time? When your time is ready, will you be ready? That's what I do, man. That's all I do. That I believe every time I step on it, I'll never cheat one of my teammates. Ever. I never let one of my teammates take a break on me. And I never take a break on them. But man, you guys got an opportunity to do something right now. And when you wake up in the mornings, don't let your alarm clock be the only thing that wakes you up. Make sure you wake up with God on your mind. Make sure you fall to your knees with your face on the floor to say thank you for another opportunity, not just to wake up, but to be a top athlete. Because some people can't see, some people can't walk, some people can't hear. But you're gifted. Strap on some shoulder pads. Put on your cleats. We all know that feeling feel like. There's no feeling in the world like it. So now how thankful would you give back to that? Every single day you got to master your craft. That's what it's about. Million kids across this country, man. This one shot, harsh reality. 1% makes it. One. I heard from everything that I was too small, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. Okay, and but nobody's ever stepped in that room with me to get it done. That's what I'm challenging each one of you men today. Don't let coach always have to tell you what to do. Find a way to do it yourself. So that when he get ready to text you, and when he get ready to question you on what a defense should be or what an offense should be, you already got the answers. That's when you start having a real meeting. That's when a coach appreciates coming in a meeting. When before you play your next game, you know the opponent better than the coach know the opponent. It's just competition, right? So when somebody says, oh, are you ready to be done? Why? I ain't found a man that'll flat out outwork me. You might outrun me in a 40, but you ain't gonna flat out outwork me for 60 minutes. I doubt that. Ain't because I got nothing special. The only thing I got special is I made my mind up to be special.
My assistant's got a great thing now in this. Once in every 4 months, somebody sends an email saying, I've got a huge startup that I want you to invest in, but you've got to sign this NDA, right? Which literally every time gets an email back that says, F you, right? And the reason is, I'm a humongous believer that ideas are shit and that execution's the game, right? We've all got ideas. Everybody's got ideas. Do you know how many ideas we all have here? We could probably sit here for the next 2 hours, draw them all out, record them, and predict the next 78 great startups over the next 9 years. And so I think the thing that is another theme in entrepreneurship is there is way too much fodder brought to the idea. Uber was Magic Cab 3 years earlier. Uber is not an idea. Uber existed. It's called Magic Cab. But the guys that executed it sucked. So they lost. So I think, you know, if there's any level of romance left in this room about your idea, I'd like to suffocate it.
Greatness is a lot of small things done well, stacked on top of each other. Schoolwork, yes ma'am, no ma'am, pants pulled up over my waist. Small things that makes greatness. So when somebody finally sees you, they represent you as a king because you walk as a king. And until you set your mindset to think like a king, then you stay where everybody else is at. And that's the place I didn't want to stay. I wanted to go way beyond that. And that's what I'm still chasing to this day. That's the only reason I was in the gym early this morning. That's the only reason I was saying, Lord, whatever it is, I don't know what it is today. But if I can change one life today, just by telling you to be different, do something different, and take God with you, I don't care where you go, then do it. Then do it. And when you do it, let your name be worth more than your bank account. When you're finally ready to go home, make sure your footsteps are remembered. That's the only reason you guys respect me the way y'all respect me. That's it. Because I made up my mind to chase him and really nurture my craft. Really nurture my craft. I've never been the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, and nothing. Nothing. That's why all I had was work. That's all I ever had was my work ethic. From 9 years old, I took a deck of cards, which is now 3 decks of cards. I took a deck of cards, I flip over a card and I do 6. Flip over another card, if I get a jack, queen, king, I do 10. If I get an ace, I do 25. If I flip over a joke, I do 50. I mastered that. At 9 years old, that deck of cards now turned to 3 deck of cards. If I brought my bag in here, I'd show you those same 3 deck of cards that I travel with every day of my life. Because the only thing I know is I can't take a break. Don't ever let a day go by that you waste. Because that's a day you can never get back.
I mean, the reality is, reading a book or going to a conference or having a great conversation where you get this golden information, that's all fantastic. But what makes mastery is execution on the ideas, not the ideas. And so no idea works unless you're willing to roll up your sleeves, do the practice, invest the time, put in the effort, do the work. I think we've all observed a lot of people who they love reading the books, they love showing up at the courses, they do all the online training, and nothing ever changes. And they say, well, you know, I don't know why it doesn't change, why my life doesn't change, why my thinking doesn't change, why my performance doesn't change, why my relationships don't change. Well, it's because ideas don't work if you don't execute on them. So if you look at the great business builders, you look at any great performer, one thing that makes them great is their grit. One thing that makes them great is their hunger to practice. One thing that makes them great is they are willing to sacrifice. I mean, yes, they're passionate, but did you know the root of the word passion is suffering? You've got to be willing to suffer for your vision. You've got to be willing to suffer to reach BIW, best in world. You've got to be willing to suffer the ridicule and laughter of your critics and your cynics to get to a place called world class.
So y'all can't waste no more time. You got to make up your mind to do anything you want to do. And don't let nobody tell you what you can't do. You can look at my store, you can look at Michael Jordan's store. And when a coach said you're not good enough, he went and made himself good enough. Simply by work. So I'm not here to tell you no secrets. I'm here to tell you the only thing I know how to do is work. Guys, don't ever walk through life alone. Don't ever do it alone. That's the longest walk you'll ever take. It's by yourself. Take somebody with you. Take somebody with you. All right? Thank you.
Unlike a team where no one takes ownership of the problems and therefore the problems never get solved, with us, everyone took ownership of their mistakes. Everyone took ownership of the problems. And when a team takes ownership of its problems, the problems get solved. And that is true on the battlefield, it is true in business, and it is true in life. So I say, take ownership. Take extreme ownership. Don't make excuses. Don't blame any other person or any other thing. Get control of your ego. Don't hide your delicate pride from the truth. Take ownership of everything in your world, the good and the bad. Take ownership of your mistakes, take ownership of your shortfalls, take ownership of your problems, and then take ownership of the solutions that will get those problems solved. Take ownership of your mission. Take ownership of your job, of your team, of your future, and take ownership of your life. And lead. Lead. Lead yourself and your team and the people in your life. Lead them all to victory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just 85 people on this planet have as much money as the poorest 3.5 billion.
Yeah, right. That's on the planet, however. That's...
It's not far off in America.
No, it isn't far off in America, but we still here don't abandon the idea that it isn't finite.
Yeah.
It isn't finite if you were born, where were you born?
Me?
Yeah.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Baton Rouge General Hospital.
Baton Rouge.
There you go.
Louisiana. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. I had a long haul from where I came from to here, but here we are.
Right.
So the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and here we sit at the dining table.
But it's hard to, when you say that to some people, because they say, oh, there you go with a pull yourself up by the bootstraps thing, and, you know, you're just being respectable. Not everybody can do that.
Well, everybody can. everybody doesn't. Courage is the key to life itself. There are a lot of people who are born in situations where they say, well, I'll never get out of this, so they won't. I say to people who say, well, I would like to have done so and so and so. So, well, you could have done it. So, well, I couldn't get out of here. Man, the bus runs every day.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
If you can conceive it in your mind.
If you can think of it, you can do it. That's the human condition. If we can imagine it, we can do it.
Right.
And I think that's the condition of each individual human.
Every person that's connected to you. It's the smallest things in life that we throw away too quickly. See, some people listen, but when you really want to change, you must hear. With this toy program, what we did in this graduation, we made a step. We took the next step. But what does the next step mean? What does graduation really mean? Because when you really graduate, the thought I want to leave you with is today, is it's time now till we must readjust our comfort zone. I will do. I will stand. I will put both of my feet in the ground. And I will stand for something, because if I don't stand for something, I'll fall for anything. See, now it's time to go to a different thought process. You see, a goal, many goals that you may have of graduations and making it to this next moment. And I understand how important the goals can be. But the goals remains a goal until you write it on a piece of paper. Then it becomes a vision. So our next steps is, what is the vision? What is the vision? Because the only reason I'm here, the only reason we're here today is because of our yesterday. Everything I've been through has defined who I am right now. So what's the goal? What's the vision? But if the good book says write the vision and make the vision plain, before you write the vision, you must have an imagination. You must be able to see yourself out of the situation that you may have been in. If you can't imagine yourself being out of the hood, you'll keep going back to the hood. You show me your crowd, I'll show you your future. Because they run hand in hand. But when you start to readjust your comfort zone, I want to share something with you that you must understand, that before anything great is really achieved, your comfort zone must be disturbed.
What advice would you give, purely in an acting sense, to yourself 30, 40 years ago?
Same advice I gave myself 30, 40 years ago. Get a job. Act. There are, unfortunately, those of us who say, well, I want to be a star. That's way out there in the ether somewhere. I want to be a working actor. You can pull that off. So, act, work. Someone asked me once, and you're about to do it, what would you do if you weren't an actor? If you didn't make it as an actor, what would you do? I have no idea. I would act somewhere. Maybe I'd be driving a cab, maybe I'm working somebody's yard, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to belong to somebody's little theater group. I will act. Because I'll die if I don't.
No matter what you say I cannot do, no matter what you say I will not do, I must do. I have to do. I am king. I live as king. I walk as king. This is our new identity. The new identity is you must be okay with your comfort zone being shut up. They tell you when you start to mix a protein shake, they say it don't work unless you got the right blender. I heard a whisper years ago. I found myself in a situation, Tori, and I'm telling you, I heard somebody say it today, we all done been through something. Trust me, we all done been through something. But I found myself in this place, and I heard a whisper. I heard a whisper, and the whisper simply said, can you hear me now? Some little one-on-one time. It's time to readjust our comfort zones. It's time to figure out whatever majority is doing, I'm gonna find myself doing the opposite. I always try to figure out what's the difference between good and great. Good is fitting in. Great is fitting out. Don't look for those, nothing spectacular to come out the sky. We are the sky. What we looking to change, we must change. And the only way to change it is make sure you ain't doing the same thing every day of your life. If an alarm clock is waking you up every morning, we might find ourselves confused in 10 years.
But there are patterns that control the way you think and feel. And think about it, whether you're performing in sports, or whether it's government, or whether it's, in the financial markets, or whether it's in your relationship, as much as we want to think it's just the way we think, our emotions play a huge role in our performance, or lack thereof. And I know how to help people make a shift in their psychology. I think there's three things that will, quote, motivate somebody, right? There's push motivation, trying to make somebody do something, and then there's pull. Another one's incentives. And incentives are fantastic for certain people, and everybody appreciates them, but the problem with an incentive is there's only so much you can give out of the margin of a business. The most powerful incentive I know is autonomy and growth. The sense that I've become more, that I can give more, that I can create more. I always say to people, if you want to know where happiness comes, and give it to you in one word, progress. Progress equals happiness. We're not supposed to sit at the table of success and just feel good about ourselves forever. What makes us feel alive is growing, and when we grow, we have something to give.
Your job as an actor is to give it your best shot every time. So yes, I'm going into it with the idea that I'll play it to the best of my ability, and they wouldn't give it to me, the role, if they didn't think I was capable of pulling it off. Or I wouldn't take it if I didn't think I was capable of pulling it off.
Getting things is not going to make you happy. That's good news in a tough economy. It's a good reminder. It doesn't matter what you get. Doesn't matter whether it be money or opportunity. All those things might excite you for the moment. Even a relationship, as magnificent it may be, might be exciting for a while. But if you don't keep growing, that relationship isn't going to stay exciting. So the secret to real happiness is progress. Progress equals happiness. And if we can make progress on a regular basis, we feel alive. And that's why at the beginning of the year, we get this thing like, okay, I can have this fresh start. I could really do what my soul desires. I could expand. I could grow. I could improve. I could change. Or maybe better than change, I could progress. See, think about that. Progress is an aliveness to it, doesn't it? You don't have to work at changing. People say all the time now, well, I'm working on changing. Don't worry about it. You don't have to work on changing. Change is automatic. Your body's going to change whether you want it or not as the years go by. And no matter how hard you work, there's going to be some changes going on there. The economy is going to change no matter what you want it to do. The weather is going to change. Relationships are going to change. Everything in life is always changing. We don't have to work on change. Change is automatic, but progress is not. So if you want to make real progress, then you really got to look at your life in a different way. You got to say, I got to take control of this process and not just hope it's going to work out like people do who make a resolution.
Good habits will give you results that stick. Bad habits will destroy everything. I have some bad habits. That's right. All my habits are not great. So if you've got some bad habits, don't feel bad. So does your next door neighbor. So does your mentor, your coach. So does your mother and father if they're alive. So does everyone. And the trick of life is to replace a bad habit with a good habit. I used to hang around bars all the time. And one day I went in, I picked up a glass, and I looked around and I thought, they're all bums in here. And then it dawned on me, I'm always here. I learned something. I put the glass down and I said, I'm never coming back here again, and I'm never going to drink this, and I never did. That was a long time ago. But you know what I did? I went from spending all my money in the bar to the racetrack, and I started to bet it all on horses. So I went from making somebody with a bar get wealthy, and then I started to feed the horses. And one day I woke up and I learned something. If you don't consciously and deliberately replace a bad habit with a good habit, you will automatically create another bad habit. Now, what is a habit? A habit is an idea that has been planted in the garden of your subconscious mind and then repetitively fed for a sufficient period of time that you act on it without giving any thought to it. I'll give you an example. I want you to right now mentally imagine you're pulling on your underwear in the morning. What foot do you put in first? I put my right foot in. If I tried to put my left foot in my underwear first, I'd stagger and I'd fall over. You may say, what's this got to do with it? It's got everything to do with it. Why do I put my right foot? You may put your left. Certainly a lot of people do. Well, when I was just a little gaffer, didn't have a clue of how to put underwear on, my mother or my grandmother or my father or somebody came along and they had the underwear read, put your foot in here. Your other foot. What did they do? They had the underwear prepared as if they were going to put it on. And so pretty soon, I was doing it like they were doing it. They, through repetition, planted the idea in my mind. Well, now think of this. You don't just form habits of how to get dressed. You form habits to do everything that you do. And some of them are not that productive. Any idea that you keep dwelling on and impressing upon your subconscious mind becomes fixed in the subconscious mind. A habit is nothing but an idea that's fixed in the subconscious mind that you act on without giving any conscious thought. Many years ago, I went in to train the Prudential Insurance Company of America, their agents. I ended up training all of their agents. And I only got them to do two things. This is in the early 70s. I got them to form the habit of being in front of a prospect before 9 a.m. and ask everybody they talk to purchase $100,000 worth of insurance. I said, you don't have to sell them, just give them the opportunity to say no. You know, the sales in that company went up by hundreds of millions of dollars. I had a retired VP tell me he thought it was $1 billion. Just changing two habits. What habit do you want to change? I'm forever checking out habits I've got. I'm in the habit right now of changing my diet. And you know something? I've been doing it for going on 3 weeks. It's getting easier, but it's still not that easy. I still like to reach over and eat some of that when nobody's looking. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. I'm looking. What habit are you going to form? And you shouldn't try and form more than 2 at once. It'll become too big and too heavy and you won't form any. Make up your mind you're going to do it every day, every day, every day, until you don't have to think about it, and then you'll automatically do it. I guarantee you, this idea will change your life. Think about it all day, because that is definitely an idea that will give you results that will stick.
People fail to achieve their goals 99.9% of the time, and you ask them why, they'll tell you it's because of a lack of resources. That's what all these things are. I didn't have the support, right? I didn't have the money. We didn't have the time. We didn't have this. We didn't have that. There's a resource that people believe is missing. And that resource belief structure then keeps people from ever being able to really lead. Because what leaders do is they find a way to maximize whatever resources they have, as little as they may be, and they don't believe in limited resources. I'll give you an example. Let's take a business example to start with. In 1974, a guy named Sam Walton had built his little company up. He came up with an idea. He started with $20,000 in, I think, 1962, if I remember right. But by 1974, within 12 years, he had 78 stores. And you know how he did it? In the middle of the night, he'd drive across the border and he'd go and study other people's stores. He'd buy everything the cheapest he could in the middle of the night. He'd go to other people's stores. Whatever was working, he figured out. Success leaves clues. He came back and did it in his store. Whatever was working in any store, in any competitor, anywhere he could do it, he did it. So he figured out how to maximize the little resources he had, his 20,000, built 78 stores, and if you read any of the people following him, the company had gone public in that year, they were all saying, This is it. He's maximized his resources. I mean, he only has so much money. There's only so many cities that are going to appeal to this discounting mentality, right? This is it. This is all he can do. And the word on Wall Street was sell. Now, what's interesting is at that time, you look at Sears and Kmart, and they were gargantuan companies, weren't they? 20, 30, 40, 50 times, 100 times his size or more, probably. And at that time, they were the leaders, and they knew what's going to happen. But did things change, yes or no? Did he suddenly get mass amounts of capital? No. Here's what they didn't understand. Sam Walton now, or the Walton Organization, Walmart, is the most successful retailing operation on earth. And when you talk about Bill Gates being the richest man in the world, that's only true because Sam's fortune is divided up amongst a bunch of different family members. You put them together, they dwarf Bill Gates. Sam Walton did this. How did he do it? What people underestimated is that this guy could go to 4,400 stores, do $250 billion. Where's Kmart today? And they've been shrinking. All of them have been shrinking. And he's the dominant force on earth. Here's the thing he understood. Resources are interesting, but the ultimate resources are the feelings of emotion that make you resourceful. Think of it this way. Resourcefulness is the ultimate resource. What do I mean? What are the emotions that make all this possible? What's the fuel that takes an idea from being in your head where you intellectually know what to do? How many have had an idea, for example, was a great idea, you're excited about it, and then you didn't do anything. One day, there you saw it on the shelf, you saw it somewhere, someone stole your idea. How many have had this happen? Say aye. The only difference between you and that person was not that they had more resources, they were more resourceful.
The ideal situation for a man or woman to die is to have family members praying with them as they cross over. But I know that, imagine, if you will, being on your deathbed and standing around your bed, the ghost of the dreams, the ideas, the abilities, and the talents given to you by life, but you, for whatever reason, you never acted on those ideas, you never pursued those dreams, you never used those gifts, and there they are standing around your bed looking at you with large angry eyes saying, "We came to you, and only you could have given us life, and now we must die with you forever." When Jim spoke, Jim said, "When the end comes for you, let it find you conquering a new mountain, not sliding down an old one." Jim taught us that things may happen to you and things may happen around you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you.